Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name is Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. Today I'm filming a haul video for sort of August, September. I've got a pile of books which is just cascaded all over the floor, and I've also got some books which I bought on my Kindle. So I'm going to start with the books that I've got physical copies of, which apart from one, they've all been bought from a second-hand shop. There's a really cool little second-hand shop in Harleston in Suffolk called Billick Fair Charity Shop, and they have some really good books in there. So I got actually all of them from there. So without further ado, I will kick off. The first book that I've got is one that I've seen on BookTube quite a lot. I think several of you will have read this already. So apologies if you've already read it. That is The Binding by Bridget Collins. So this book is about set in the early 1900s. Oh, actually it doesn't say. In my mind it's set in the Victorian sort of time, so it doesn't actually say. And it's about a boy who is a bookbinder, and he is making books look beautiful, but he is also binding people's stories and secrets into each book. And then one day he finds a book with his own name on it, so somebody has bound up his secret. So yeah, so it's kind of gothic, and the cover is just beautiful. So I think it'll be a really nice autumnal read now that we're into September, and it'll be sort of autumnal feeling. Well, it sort of is already, really, I guess, but I don't know whether we're going to get any more heat or if we're going to carry on, you know, just getting cooler from here. So that's the first one. The second one is an author who I've mentioned quite a lot of times on this channel because her books are always so cheerful and cosy, and I really love them, and that is Katie Fforde, and this one is called The Perfect Match. So Katie Fforde's books are sort of contemporary women's fiction, sort of romances, and they're very, very cosy and comforting. This is about a woman who has had her heart broken by a man about 3 years ago, and she's now started work as an estate agent. She really loves her job. She is engaged to someone who works with her, and then he seems like he's been a bit distracted, so she's not sure if something's going on with him. And then at that point her ex turns up and everything's kind of all thrown up into the air. So I guess it's a sort of a love triangle type romance, but it will be really cosy, and I always enjoy reading these, especially if I'm feeling a bit stressed and stuff. They really help with how I feel. Next we have another author who's very popular on BookTube. I've only read one of her books, but I now own, I now own 5 of her books. I was just trying to find one of them's missing, so I think I might have lent it to my mum. I'm not sure. And this is Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. Again, it's one that I know most people will have read already. I've only read The Night Watch by Sarah Waters, and I absolutely loved it. So I've been faithfully collecting her books, which are quite often to be found in charity shops. I just need to get on and read some more of them now. So this one is set again in the Victorian times. 1862. And it's about a girl called Sue who is raised by some petty thieves known as Fingersmiths, and I think they're not her blood relatives. She's an orphan, and it says that her fate is linked to another orphan who's living not so many miles away. So yeah, this sounds like it's going to be another sort of gothic autumnal type read, and I love historical books, so I'm really looking forward to that one as well. The next one I have is a YA book. It's an author who I keep hearing about over and over again, but I've never read any of her books. And so when I saw one in the charity shop, I just thought, I'm going to give it a try. It's not my normal kind of book, but it does sound intriguing. And this is Tithe by Holly Black. And it says A Modern Tale of Fairy. So the premise of this one is there's a young girl who's 16 called Kay. And her mum is in a rock band, and she sort of lives a nomadic lifestyle, travelling from place to place with her mum. Then it says an ominous attack forces them back to their childhood home, and there used to be fairies when she lived there as a kid. When she goes back, there are still fairies, but they're trying to draw her into a darker magical underworld where her life is at risk. So it sounds like it looks easy to read. Like, the writing is quite big inside, and I think it'll be quite immersive, and just something that will be like a nice dive into a genre I'm not really very familiar with. And if I like Holly Black, I know that she's got loads of other books which I can easily get my hands on. Next is a book which, with a bit of a catastrophe of an avalanche yesterday, and it sadly has a big crease in the back cover now, which I'm a bit gutted about. But anyhow, this is one I've never heard of, but my friend who I was shopping with yesterday picked it up and said, oh, I think this is a you book. And when I looked, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a me book. It's one I haven't heard of on BookTube. It's called The Electricity of Every Living Thing by Katherine May, with the subtitle A Woman's Walk in the Wild to Find Her Way Home. So anything to do with wilderness, walking, nature writing is like my sort of book. So this is a non-fiction book, I believe. It is set in 2015, and Katherine May sets out to walk the South West Coast path, which is 630 miles. And she's trying to understand like why it's difficult for her to live life day to day, why she found it really difficult to be a mum, and why she feels like she doesn't really fit in. It says that while she's on this walk, she listens to a radio programme about Asperger's, and she thinks that actually maybe she has Asperger's, and that's what the missing piece has been to this puzzle. And it says it's the story in which she comes to terms with her diagnosis, the physical and emotional journeys becoming inextricably entwined, and finding her way across the untamable coast, she also finds the way to herself. So I'm looking forward to that, because that's all stuff that I'm interested in, and yeah, it's just really nice to pick up a book that you've never heard of before and give it a go. So the next book I have is a sports autobiography, and this is a signed edition, which is really nice to pick up second hand. And this is Raw Speed by Tai Woffinden. So Tai Woffinden is a British speedway rider who has been world champion 3 times. Speedway, if you don't know what Speedway is, so it's a motorsport. They basically ride 600cc motorbikes round a track, and they do 4 laps around a track, and they have no brakes. So 4 riders ride at a time. It's very dangerous, obviously, because if there's a crash or something, you can't brake. And so it's quite a sort of adrenaline-fueled motorsport, which I really enjoy watching, not doing. And so, like I say, Tai is a British and world champion, not current world champion, but hopefully this year he's in with a chance of regaining his title. And this is his autobiography of how he became a world champion speedway rider. So that will be maybe not interesting to all the people who are watching on BookTube, unless they're speedway fans, but certainly for me, and it's really cool for me that it's also signed by Tai. The next book is the fourth book that I've got by this author. I've only read one of them, but I keep hearing again really good things on BookTube, so I grabbed this book when I saw it, and it is The Absolutist by John Boyne. So I also have The Heart's Invisible Furies and Next of Kin by John Boyne, and also The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, which I've read, which is a children's book. So this one is set in World War One. And it's about 2 men, one of which lays down arms in 1917 and just says, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. And I don't know, it doesn't say what happens to him, but I don't know if he's kind of shot or what happens, it doesn't say. And the other man is bringing some letters to the guy who's laid down arms' sister after the war is finished. And it says, I think that bringing the letters isn't the real reason for his visit to the sister. He's desperate to tell her something, if only he can find the courage. So again, all these books just sound so good, I just want to pick them all up straight away. So the last 3 physical books that I have, one of them is the second in a series, and this is Demelza, which is the second in the Poldark series. So I read the first one in July, and I got that from the library because I thought it was Outlander, and then I realised it wasn't Outlander, but I decided to read it anyway, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. I watched the first episode of the TV adaptation on Netflix, and I wanted to kind of watch along as I read, but I haven't done as yet. I think series 1 of the adaptation covers books 1 and 2. So this is book 2, this is Demelza. I can't really say anything about it because it would spoil what happened with book 1. But obviously she's the main focus of the novel rather than him for this one. Heather read it recently, Soggy Expat Book Nerd Heather, and she loved it, but she said there was something really sad in here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in this one. The next book, again, I feel like I'm like a lot of these are books that people have already read, and I'm just really behind. So sorry if you've heard about all these already. The next one is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which I'm kind of shocked that I haven't read yet. This is by Rebekah Skloot. I've watched the film adaptation of this already with Oprah in. So this is a true story about Henrietta Lacks, who died of cervical cancer in 1951. And without her consent, her cervical cancer cells were stolen, and they were used in huge amounts of cancer research, and apparently a lot of what we know now is due to Henrietta Lacks' cells, and her family have never received any compensation for the fact that her cells were taken, or that all of these all of the breakthroughs that have been done due to her and her cells. And she was a black tobacco farmer, and I suspect that is probably the reason why no consent was taken, and also why there's been no compensation, because of the racism involved here and the inequality. And it's so shocking to me that this has not been put to rights by now. Why? It's not as if the industry don't have the funds to do so. So anyway, I wanted to read about her story because I think it's obviously a really important story, especially as being a doctor myself. It's something that I really wanted to be aware of, and everybody who I know who's read this book says it's fantastic. And the final physical book I have is one that I picked up in the supermarket, and I've heard good things, and that is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. So I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Gilbert, but I've only read her non-fiction. I've never read any of her fiction works before. I think she's phenomenal as a person. This is set in 1941 in New York, and it's about two women who are basically wanting to live life for themselves against the confines of society. They're not wanting to settle down and get married and have children. They're just wanting to have a good time and, put their own fun first and not conform to what society's expectations are for them. It's about following your desires and about female friendship and freedom. And I think, in the 1940s, there would have been a lot of expectations on women and what they were supposed to do with their lives. And so I think that the fact that they're going against the convention and actually fulfilling what they want to do with their lives sounds like an awesome story. So those were the books that I bought physically. And then I've got another few that I bought on my Kindle, which I'll insert pictures of the covers so that if you want to put them on your own wish list or buy them yourself, then you can. So the first one is a book which is longlisted for the Booker Prize this year, and I'm going to be doing this as a buddy read with Kiran from KD Books, and that is called The New Wilderness by Diane Cook. This is one of the ones I was most excited about when I did my Booker video, and it is basically, from what I remember, it's set in the future in a time where humans and animals don't really coexist together because of all the pollution and the environmental damage that humans have done. And there's a woman whose daughter is dying from a lung condition because of the pollution. And so she decides that she's going to take part in this experiment where in a designated area of land, humans are sort of going back to what the environment used to be. And they're living alongside animals again, and everything is, improving, and nature's coming back. And then there's this whole community there, and then the government decides actually they'd quite like to have that land back now, thank you. So I think this sounds fascinating, and I was really excited about this one, and it's now out. I've just bought it, like I say, and I can't wait to read it. The next one is called How to Disappear by Gillian McAllister. Now this is a thriller. I don't normally read thrillers, but I added this one to my wish list, and I think it was probably Emma from Drinking by My Shelf who I saw this, because she reads a lot of thrillers, and I must have really liked the sound of it when she talked about it because I put it straight on my wish list. So this is about a girl called Zara who witnesses a crime, and her identity is revealed and as a witness, and so her and her family have to go into witness protection, and the whole time they're living in sort of this fear that it's going to be found out who they are. and it says something as simple as an Instagram post could bring everything crashing down and they could be hunted. So that sounds really exciting. I think, if it's the book I remember, I think she said it's quite a literary thriller. But anyway, wherever I saw it, I obviously thought it sounded great and I put it on my wish list, and now I've bought it. The third one is a book that I'm currently reading, so I'm only going to give it a really brief mention because I'll obviously talk about it in my sort of weekly wrap-up, which I'm aiming to still do. And that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I've heard this a lot on BookTube. I've only had positive things so far. It's about a young woman who's 30 called Chloe Brown. She is a woman who has fibromyalgia, and she's quite limited what she can do in her life because of this. This is like fibromyalgia is like a chronic pain condition where you get lots of all over muscle pains and tiredness, and it's quite disabling for people who have it. And she, a guy who lives in her building called Red, she wants him to help her make like a bucket list of things that she wants to do to try and like get a life, in her own words. And then like a romance develops between them, I believe. So that's all I really say about that one at the moment. The next one is Circe by Madeleine Miller. Again, one that most people would have heard about or read already, but this one was on sale on Kindle store. I think I got it for 99p. And it's about the goddess Circe and stories told through her point of view. I'm not really sure exactly of the details. It wouldn't be the kind of thing that I'd normally gravitate to, but I heard so many people love it, and it was on the shortlist, I believe, the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction last year. The next one is one that I'm really excited about, and this has a gorgeous front cover as well. This is called The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. This is set in 1992 LA, and it's about a girl called Ashley who's black, and her friends are just like having a normal summer. They're making plans for what they want to do. They're teenagers, and then all of a sudden the LA riots start because none of the officers were charged in the attack of Rodney King. And all of a sudden it's as they go from being like 4 friends at school to being the black kids, and their whole life and how people see them and what's going on over their summer completely changes based on this incident. And I've heard a few reviews which have been really good on BookTube, but as soon as I heard about it I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to read that. And like I said, I think the cover is absolutely beautiful as well. The next one I got is one I got on Audible, and it's called Gut by Giulia Enders. So Giulia Enders is a scientist, and I'm really interested in gut health. Gut health is basically talking about the how the gut controls so much of our health, and all of the diseases that may be linked with the gut, which are kind of all coming to the fore of new science, things like depression, Alzheimer's, lots of sort of chronic inflammatory diseases. And the gut has a much bigger impact, the microbiome of the gut, so the living bacteria in the gut have a much bigger impact on this than previously realised. And this book is all about the gut and about that sort of thing, so I'm going to find this really fascinating. It may not be everyone's cup of tea. I think it's aimed at lay people, so you don't have to be a scientist or a doctor or anybody to enjoy this book. You just have to be interested in the gut and its amazing capabilities and everything that it does. And I'm hoping that I'll also learn some more things that I can put into practice at work as well. Next we have The Mercies by Kiran Milwood Hargrave. So again, another book which has been very popular on BookTube. This is set in Norway in 1617 in a fishing island. It was the Norwegian island, I think, in the fishing community. And there's a massive accident out at sea, and all of the men on the island are in this accident, and it just leaves the women to be in charge of the island. And I think then somebody's sent from the mainland or something like that, a man, to try and sort of get all the women under control. And what happens from there, that's what I believe it's about. The second to last book that I have is one called Treasure by Rebekah Weatherspoon. She's an author that I've heard a lot of positive things about on BookTube. She writes romances, and I haven't read anything by her as yet. This is quite a short book. This is about, it's called Treasure. I'm not sure if I said that already. It's about a girl called Alexis who is a college student. She's quite a high achiever. She's good at sports and music, and then something happens where she disappoints her parents. I don't know what. And she's at her sister's bachelorette party, and she meets a girl called Trisha, who is a stripper who has a stage name of Treasure. And Trisha is doing stripping to pay her way through college, and she falls for Alexis, and there's a sapphic romance. And it says, can she still love Alexis when she knows what happened? So there's obviously like a secret there as well. So it sounds really good. I'm looking forward to that one. And then the final one is a book which there is some controversy surrounding it. I don't know where I was. I didn't hear about all the controversy, but I didn't. And now I'm not sure how I feel about it now that I've bought it. But it's American Debt by Jeanine Cummings. And this is about a mother and son who are Mexican, and they're trying to cross the Mexico-US border, and about the trauma that they undergo while they're trying to make the crossing, and obviously about sort of the plight of refugees. And so the reason this has sparked a lot of controversy is because Jeanine Cummings is not a known voices writer. She's written about this experience of what it's like to be a Mexican and trying to get into the US, and the immigration laws and things, having not had that experience herself and not being of Mexican origin. And so I believe that Oprah picked this as one of her book club choices and received quite a lot of stick for doing so. And then she held, I think I've read about it in my research, and I think she did like a panel with the author and some other people and sort of discussed it. She wanted to discuss how, maybe how she didn't make the right decision or whatever. And I haven't watched anything about that, but I just feel a little bit uncomfortable now reading and reviewing it. Although I'm sure, having said that, I'm sure that I will learn a lot from reading the book, even though it's not a known voices book, about what it might be like to be in that situation. So I still do want to read it. I just feel uncomfortable now knowing about the controversies that it stirred up, not having known that when I bought the book. So that is my huge bumper wrap up for the month of August. I may have to have some sort of cull coming up because my TBR is edging towards 400. And, even if I bought no books for a year, I still wouldn't. It's going to take me 5 or so years to read my TBR, even if I bought nothing. So I don't really know how to handle that. I really like having lots of books on my TBR on one hand, because when I do reading challenges and stuff, I've always got a book that fits the prompt. I do really want to read most of these books. I think there's some of them where I persistently don't really want to read them, and maybe I should give those ones away. But there's always that feeling of, what if it's really good when you don't know about it because you gave it away. So I don't know. I'm just gonna park that thought right now. So let me know what your thoughts are about these books, whether you've read any, whether you want to read any, whether you're adding any of them to your wish list. And I will be back for my weekly wrap up, which I'm going to try doing, like I said before. So we'll see how that goes, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.